Hi everyone, Sajid Amit here and welcome to my review of the Oriolus Traillii, the $6,000 bird, which is something that a lot of people will call the endgame IEM, the best IEM on the planet. When this came out, this was met with widespread craze. Like people were selling stuff, like all their stuff to own this. And then some people loved it. A lot of people liked it. Some people sold it off. But overall, this has had great staying power. So IEMs are interesting because you find IEMs that are, basically dominating people's attention for a month or two and then they disappear. Well, this is not one of those. This has had great staying power. And although it's not from as well-known a brand as Empire Ears or 64 Audio, this is now being cherished as a legend already. And a lot of people are very enamored with this. A lot of people love this. So I wanted to get this in. Of course, I didn't buy this at a $6,000 price tag because you can have it for sort of half the price or 60% of the price on the secondary market. And so I got this in and I've been pretty excited to share my views on this. So looks wise, it's pretty minimal. It's got this sort of one color rose or red colored faceplate and the rest of the shell is see-through, so you can see through and you can see the drivers here, the ESTAT drivers and the BA drivers. Comes with a very minimal set of tips, nothing fancy. It's not going to make you feel like a king the way a lot of mid-tier IEMs like Dunu IEMs can. But again, I'm not a huge fan of Dunu sounds, so I personally don't care so much about what accessories your IEMs come with. This is the pouch it comes with. It's pretty nice looking pouch that says Oriolus Japan. It opens up and you get like very basic accessories. This is the baggie of tips and what have you. Very, very minimal. I mean, I'm never going to use most of this. I have a lot of spare tips that I like, but that's what it is. It's a pretty Spartan affair. And so if you want like to be treated like a king for $6,000, you're in the wrong hobby, because the more you pay, I feel like the more you get in terms of sound. Not always. You sometimes get value as well at lower price points, but this is all about sound, guys. And so I'm using double flange tips because this seals pretty well and I feel like brings out the bass more. The cable is pretty nice. It's a cable from PW Audio. It's called a 1960s cable. And from what I understand, this cable was designed with the Traillii in mind. It's a nice looking cable. It's functional. It's supposed to be a kilobuck range cable, but cables are pretty random, I think, in terms of the pricing, especially at the high end of IEMs. IEM users spend so much on cables at the high end. So if you're not familiar with that sort of segment of the hobby or that sub hobby, people spend thousands of dollars on cables, almost up to the price point of a Traillii. So, but this is, I think, close to $1,000 the cable if you buy this separately. And yeah, and its comfort is very, very, very agreeable. I am someone who doesn't like the comfort in IEMs for the most part. I loved it. I can keep this on for the rest of the review. I can keep this on. It looks pretty smart, I think, because of the see-through stuff going on. And it's supreme for comfort. All right, to talk about sound. First, the tonality is interesting because I feel like this is one of the best executions of Harman-ish tonality without being as shouty as Harman. So the upper mids track below Harman, which is great for me. I don't like the Harman 3K shout. The sub bass is elevated, which again is great for me, especially because it's BA bass, but it's not your usual BA bass. I'm not a huge fan of BA bass. I've gone on record criticizing BA bass for a while on my, not necessarily only on my channel, but also on Headfi where I write a lot. But this is not your typical BA bass. Like, see, I'm someone who did not like the BA bass on the U12T, despite the great elevation you get in terms of bass frequencies with some of the Apex modules. I sold it off. It wasn't for me. I thought the BA timbre was just not realistic for me. This is not that BA bass. This is just BA bass done right. So much so that I now regret hating on BA bass as much as I have. I love the bass here, guys. It works so well with rock and metal. Very energetic. The bass shelf is mostly sub-bass oriented, but has a mid-bass as well. The bass comes down at the appropriate point and goes up for the pinna gain. There's a scoop on 427K. The scoop, I feel like, is tastefully done, because the scoop balances out what follows, which is a fair amount of energy in around air frequencies. One airy sounding set. A lot of IEMs and headphones try to sound airy, but they fail because they either overdo it or underdo it. I'll give you an example of air frequencies done right, and that is the example of the Hyphaman Susvaras, one of my favorite headphones, which I sold and then bought back because I realized that in terms of frequency response, it's so hard to get a well-tuned technical performer at the Summit Fi level. So Summit Fi headphones and IEMs often will give you the best performance technically, like a 6 for audio, Tia Forte, for example, or a Tia Trio. These are IEMs that are kilobuck range IEMs, which have awesome technical performance, but then they suffer tonally. The Forte, for example, has this weird wonky tuning, which you might love at first blush because it gives you perception of stage and all that. But then I think overall you tire of it, or you bore of it, or at least I do. So I love the Empire Ears Legend Evo, which I think is more of a normal tuning than the Forte. Over time, the Evo's bass was so much, it was just way too much for me. Bass all day. This, by the way, is the Dana cable, the DHC rather, I'm sorry, the double helix cable, which is a competitor of Dana cable that I got from a Susvaras, which I'm loving. The cable is just stunning to look at. It looks like it was carved at Asgard or something. So the Susvara is famous for the way it does air frequencies, and it does it right. It gives you a sense of stage, it's spaced on individual instruments, and just the spaciousness that makes for the best kind of headphone listening. So you still get like a 3 blob or, but you just get so much space on instruments that it makes for a transparent listening experience. This does the same. The Traillii is the only other IEM or headphone that I've heard that has hit the ball out of the park with how it handles air frequencies. So wonderful tuning, harmonish without the 3K shout, elevated bass, which works well with the fact that it's BA bass, but the BA bass has a nice amount of decay. So it's not that plasticky BA bass, which I dread as much as any one of you. This is the sort of bass that will make you fall in love with BA bass. And I'm like, dynamic driver what after this? I don't give a damn about dynamic drivers anymore. This is just amazing, guys. So technical performance wise, another analogy with the Susvara or to the Susvara is that this is very, very resolving while being musical. Musical is a word that I feel like a lot of reviewers are reluctant to use because it means nothing. Music is musical. But if you've been around the hobby, and if someone like me or any other reviewer is going to repeat the word musical ever so often when talking about the Traillii, which is what happens in every review of the Traillii, you know that it's uniquely musical. And this is. It's musical, musical, musical. And that's relevant because the way resolution is presented or details are presented to you is such a musical fashion. So you don't get details shoved in your face, which you can get with a lot of IEMs that are as resolving as this. It is supremely resolving. But at the same time, it never happens. Its details are not crammed in your face. It never happens at the expense of the overall sonic presentation. So I just love the resolution on this. And this is another sort of area in which this reminds me of Hyphaman Susvara. Speed and dynamics are impressive. It's fairly dynamic for a BA set. So much so I've loved rock and metal with this, and so much so that I'm pretty genre agnostic with this. I don't look for rock music or vocal-based tracks. I look for both, because vocals here are class leading of everything I've ever heard in my life, and that includes the MF headphones, Sennheiser headphones, Susvara, Aria, the TC, the Biss, everything that I've heard, right? Like E-Stats, Stacks. I feel like if I had to rank 2 gears that do vocals really well and the best among everything else that I've ever heard, it would be the Susvara and the Traillii. The Traillii vocals are that good. They're like top 2 among everything else that I've heard. And I must have heard everything out there almost. So, speed and dynamics are wonderful. So you can play metal and rock, but keep in mind this is not like a one genre type of set. Timbre is absolutely fine. It's very natural sounding owing to its presentation, its tonality, and overall you don't get a plasticky BA timbre at all. And soundstage and imaging is another party trick because it's very spacious sounding. You get like this abnormal, and I say abnormal because I've never heard this on an IEM. You get so much space on instruments, so much so some reviewers have even compared this to an open back headphone, which is hyperbolic. It doesn't sound like an open back headphone. It sounds very much like an IEM. But it still has a very open effect. Like it has a very sort of boundlessness to the space, to the stage, and you do get the out of the head imaging that you do get with other IEMs as well. but overall it's just well done technically, supremely well done technically. Is it worth the price? Is anything worth the price? Nothing is worth the asking price, guys. So that's a question I think at some point we should stop asking, or perhaps not. I mean, there is a reason to keep asking this question and keep manufacturers honest. But I feel like where you pay the price for this is, of course, like I said, not for accessories and all that, but this championship winning combination of great tonality and great technical performance. It's just a balanced performer. It's a World Cup winning legend balanced performer. It's really as good as it gets when it comes to being balanced across everything. It really does everything right. It gets an A for everything. It's one of those straight A students that gets a 90% for every, or 92% for everything, with perhaps like 100 for vocals, and as far as IEMs go, perhaps 100 for staging and imaging. So that's what I think about the Traillii, guys. Very Spartan in terms of its accessories, in terms of its looks, very comfortable, great for long listening sessions, works well of everything. I did enjoy this in particular of my Aslan Kern Ultima 2000 T-DAP. So this has 3 modes, a tube mode, an op-amp mode, and a hybrid mode. It sounds great of everything. This overall is a lush, warm sounding DAP, and the Traillii reveals the coloration of this source. For instance, if I drive the Traillii of the QCell M15, I feel like I perceived a certain digitalness, a certain brightness to the M15 treble, which the Traillii brought out really well, but it was still a great pairing. The Traillii pairs well with everything, but of course, like I said, it will reveal the coloration of your source gear really well. So you can tune the sound of the Traillii a bit. Some people even change the cable to tune the Traillii, which I'm not going to get into. But overall, guys, amazing set. The Oriolus Traillii JP at $6,000 is the best IEM I've ever heard, and that's official. I didn't buy this for $6,000, thankfully, but you can get it at a lower price if you get it used, between $3,000 to $4,000. But it's amazing, and it has my highest recommendation. I hope this was useful, guys. If you like this video, give it a like and follow my channel if you have not, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye.